Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. As always, it is Tyler Gallo alongside Jack O'Brien. And Jack, we've got a lot of stuff for you tonight.
That we do. But before we get into that, Tyler, we have to take a look into something.
Yeah.
In a world without sports, humanity was abandoned by our greatest asset to escape our normative lives that drag on 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We face challenges along the way, like how to know when a casserole is completely cooked through or how to bake sourdough from scratch. When it's rational to take out the trash, but you think you can still fit 3 or 4 more articles of waste into that bag. Wondering if your dog can understand the words that come out of your mouth, or if they just look to you as a source of food. The number of walks you can take around your neighborhood before completely going insane. And whether or not you really will write that autobiography you've told all your friends about for the last 2 years. It's been a long and strenuous road, folks, and no one knows that better than us here at Colonial Sports Center. So tonight, and here on out, we're going to take a different approach to our regularly scheduled program to show you the other side of the coin and take you into the lives and perspectives of not only the athletes, but the people who make the show go on.
So I'm here with Michaela Boyle of the RMU women's hockey team. Thanks for coming on today, Michaela.
Thanks for having me.
So obviously it's been a long off season for you guys, but going back to the end of last year, you guys lost 2-1 in the final against Mercyhurst. What was your mindset going into, the off season before COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, we were right there and it could have gone both ways. I think we played a really strong game and Mercyhurst played a strong game. My thoughts going into the off season was more about how we can fine tune the areas in which we lacked and how to come back and hold that feeling of that loss with us. But also use it as motivation to continue on through this next season coming up in the off season that we had during the summer.
And speaking of the off season, was there any day-to-day exercises that you partook in to better yourself for this season?
Yeah, I got back on the ice in early May. I was fortunate enough to be able to skate. So I skated all through the summer, and then my family owns a gym and we had to close down due to COVID, but we took a lot of equipment home with us and kind of made a home gym. So we were able to get the necessary training in that we needed to maintain and then continue to progress throughout the summer. And we were back in the gym in early June.
And then I believe I heard you earlier, you said, not this interview obviously, but you said something about you were coaching a Pee-wee team.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of lessons did you learn from coaching that you're hopefully going to bring this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really rewarding to see how excited the girls were to just be back at the rink. They were so excited, whether it was their first or second time on the ice or whether they had gotten on the ice before, depending on, where they were living and what the regulations were. It was just such a pure excitement to be back playing what they love to do and being with their friends, and that was kind of how I felt when I got back here. And I remember the first day on the ice, I don't think I stopped smiling, even though I felt like I couldn't skate, but it was just so exciting to be back with, all my friends and my teammates and just be back doing what we love.
Now, you don't have to answer this one if you don't want to, but what teammate did you miss the most?
I'd have to say I missed all of them. No one, in particular. I just think we have a really special group. The returners from last year and the newcomers this year are fitting in great. And so I was more just excited to be back with everyone.
And then Coach Colantino, obviously, did he check up with you guys at all over the off season?
Yeah, we had some Zoom calls as a team when they were permitted, and we kind of just stayed in touch. We have a summer email chain that we do, so it coordinates with your jersey number, and you send your email on that day of the month. And the coaches are involved, and that's one way we really try and keep in touch and stay together as a group when we're all spread out.
And you mentioned the regulations and stuff due to COVID. I don't exactly know what Massachusetts was doing, but did you get to see any of your teammates face to face?
I did not. No one is really near Boston, so it was a long time away from all my friends.
Well, thank you and good luck this upcoming season. Hopefully there is one.
Thank you.
And now I'm joined by Luke Yost and Nathan Brasinger. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be talking some football, isn't that right? That's
Yes.
right, John. I'm excited about some football.
So we're doing a little segment we like to go buy or sell here. And first off, Luke, we'll start with you one. After a 6-1 NEC season last year, do you think this team is a one-hit wonder?
It's interesting because, I mean, they're not going to be able to go back to the NEC and kind of see where they stack up again this year. They're going to leave the conference, they're going to the Big South. But I think I don't think it was one-hit wonder. I think they were a definite good team. And when Bernard Clark took over, that whole culture of that football team changed. And I think they weren't a one-hit wonder.
You know, I'm going to buy the one-hit wonder because moving into the Big South, there's a lot tougher competition. And so I think, you know, the season they had last year going 7-5 was a one-time thing for at least the near future.
And then, Luke, you did mention Bernard Clark and the culture he brought in. He's starting his third season at the helm of Robert Morris. Is it too early to call him better than John Banaszak?
It's never too early. The second he stepped foot on this campus, the whole dynamic of that team changed. You know, at the practices with Banaszak, they were always really quiet. There was no music playing. These people were just doing their job and keeping it moving. With Bernard Clark, people were excited, jumping around the field. You had guys who I would say were messing around and doing anything they shouldn't be doing, but just having fun with football again.
Yeah, I'm going to buy the aspect that Bernard Clark is much better than John Banaszak was. I mean, second season in, he already had a winning season. He's instilling that culture of winning in this program, and like Luke said, you know,
The key leaders of a football team is the quarterback. Last year, it was George Martin. Nate, do you see him being the starter again this season?
yeah, George Martin, I see, is going to be the starter again, once again. 11 games played last year, 1,348 passing yards with 11 touchdowns. He came in, sort of took over for Caleb Lewis, and he sort of was strong the rest of the season.
And I'm going to buy as well. I think, you know, last year we saw Caleb Lewis play well in the time he got to play when he was at YSU, and then the Buffalo game he got some reps in. But they were always hesitant on who they're going to throw the quarterback. Coach Clark always told us, well, it'll be a game time decision. But in the back of everybody's mind, George Martin was always going to start for that football team.
And then we're talking about the quarterback, but the supporting cast. Is this offense going to run through Elijah Jackson or Garrett Hauser?
You know, I'm going to buy Elijah Jackson being their number one offensive producer. Last year he came in and was their top rushing leader. He only had 4 touchdowns, which that number needs to go up for them to be successful in the Big South. But I buy him as their number one productive player.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. He's going to be the main focal point of this offense. And this is a Big South conference that benefits teams who can run the ball. I mean, this is a conference that's built on, you know, built on everybody being able to control the clock, manage the clock, and run the football.
All right, well, it's coming up after
Chance high five. All right. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother and fur. I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? I'm high. Oh.
Stem is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get...
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. Well, we saw Luke Yost and Nate Brysinger sit down and discuss a little bit of football. Now they're going to take a look at some of the fresh faces as well as the offense and how it looks this season. Guys, what do you got for us?
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, Nate, this is an interesting time for Robert Morris. I think we mentioned how before they were really good in the NEC last year, finishing runner-up, and then this year they go into a whole new conference. I mean, everybody's gonna be changing around. We're taking a look now at the freshmen, just the skill players that are going to be part of this team. Who do you want to look out for this year?
Yeah, there's an extremely large turnover between the seniors that left and the freshmen that are incoming. But I want to take a look at wide receiver James Weststreet. He was a part of a 12-0 team that won state championship in his high school. So I think he can be dynamic on the field. Also, he averaged 13.4 yards per catch. So that factor that he can pick up yards after the catch is very big for George Martin in this offense if he plays.
And I would look at AJ Dart. He's going to be a difference maker for that Colonials offense if he gets a chance to play. But let's move on to my tight end pick to look out for, Ryan Moore from Peters Township. He's 6'2", 190 pounds. He was only used as a blocker when he was at Peters Township. He has the height, the skill to replace a guy like Matt Gonzalez they lost last year.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for this freshman class to sort of take over and make a name for themselves this year in the Big South Conference.
Let's move on to our defensive picks. Those guys are that defense needs a lot of help. They lost Mason Gray last year. You got some guys who had injuries, and that there wasn't a lot of depth at the defensive back position. But I think this year they have a good crop of incoming freshmen. So let's take a look at who we are. Who can we look out for in the red, white, and blue for RMU on the field?
Yeah, one player I do want to look at on the D lineman side of things, Alex Colangelo from St. Edward's. He anchored his defensive line and held opposing teams to 17.5 points per game. And that's going to be huge for this RMU defensive line because, as we'll see later, that they aren't very good and haven't been for the past couple years.
And they're going to get reinforcements from my pick, Eric Alexa. He's a good athletic build. He's a quick defensive end. He played defensive end in high school, and he has good hands, and he doesn't mind a drop back in coverage. I think you saw Robert Morris this year. Not a lot of guys got hands up, getting hands in the lane, and they couldn't get to the quarterback, which is really a big problem for this defensive line moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think tackling and forcing turnovers for this defense and for these incoming freshmen are going to be a huge point of emphasis for this team.
What about the rest of the defense? Who else do you want to look at?
Defensively, I mean, there's a lot of defensive backs, linebackers also. Jason Washington, I think he could be, an explosive player back there, run stopper. A lot of players up and down this freshman list that can be huge.
I think, for me, it's Dakari Campbell. I mean, this is a defense that they really lacked the explosiveness on the backside. They got beat deep a couple times on some really good plays. But, yeah, they always lacked a true ball hawk, and I think Cable will be that true ball hawk. But let's take a look at what this RMU team lost, because they lost some really, really good players, Nate.
Yeah, they lost a lot of, on the offensive side of things, receivers. Delano Madison, Tim Vecchio, and Deontay White were some big receivers that they lost. Terrence Stevens, and one of their biggest receiving targets, Matthew Gonzalez.
Literally and figuratively, yeah. Matt Gonzalez, in his last 2 years, Robert Morris, 16 touchdowns, over 1,200 yards on 74 catches. He was always a threat in the red zone, but we saw more in his junior year would be a threat anywhere on the field.
Yeah, and he was an NFL hopeful. He was getting looked at by teams, but never was signed or picked up. But those are large shoes to fill in terms of the tight end position.
And defensively for that team, they lost Mason Gray, an Albany transfer, played for Coach Clark at Albany, came to Robert Morris to continue to play for him, had 2 incredible seasons at Robert Morris, but he graduated last year, 100 tackles, 5 tackles for losses, 2 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. He was always a threat to make a turnover and make a big play in clutch time.
Yeah, that's a huge loss in Mason Gray. Also, Havon Price is another guy that they lost in that secondary. That some of these freshmen and new players that are going to step up throughout the lineup that is going to be very significant for this team.
And let's talk about who's going to step up for this team. Who do you have picked for that?
My big step-up player on offense, Elijah Jackson, is my guy who I think needs to step up. Even though he was the top rusher on this team last year, he only had 4 touchdowns, which I think he needs to find the end zone a lot more often for this team to be very successful, and he needs to score a lot of points for this team.
And my player to step up and watch, or to step up and be a part of this Colonials offense is Josh Dahl, the Fork Union Military Academy transfer. He played both running back and strong safety at the small school, but I think in the Big South, he's going to be a definite complementary piece to Elijah Jackson's offense, a guy that can really, that third down situation be a big time role in that part of the game.
Yeah, and then defensively, a guy that really needs to step up, including the whole D-line, Ezra Tupala is a guy I think, he's coming in to his senior season last year, only had 27 total tackles, no sacks. He's a guy that needs to get to the backfield, get to the quarterback, and this D-line let up 22 touchdowns. They need to be much better on the rushing side of the defense, and, Ezra's the first guy you look at to making a big step up.
And for me, my guy to watch on defense is Taven Harville. I mean, he had a good year last year with 42 tackles, and 3 interceptions and a fumble recovery. But yeah, he was a guy that 2 years ago was playing wide receiver for this RMU team. Now he's a defensive back. He's playing cornerbacks, safety, slot corner, all over the field. He's a guy that needs to find find his spot on this defense and make his statement.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that really could improve on this defense. I mean, last year they allowed 385 yards per game, so there's a lot of players that can make big improvements.
And this is, I mean, we've talked, and let's look at the conference that this RMU football team is going to be playing in. The Big South Conference. Nate, what do you see when you look at this conference?
There's a lot of tough teams and tough matchups that they're going to have. I mean, right off the top, you look at Monmouth and Kennesaw State, 2 teams that made the FCS playoffs last year. And they're going to struggle against those teams. We'll look at them later. But Charleston, Southern, Campbell, all teams up and down this Big South Conference that are going to pose a lot of tough matchups for this team.
Yeah, and I think that I mentioned it last week, or the week before. This is a Big South Conference that is very top-heavy, and I think Robert Morris fits well in that top 3 with Monmouth and Kennesaw State. But after the break, we will look at our top players for Robert Morris football. Stay with us here on Colonial Sports Center.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? And now she's like... You aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. I'm joined again by Luke and Nate. Thanks for coming on.
It's always a pleasure.
And then after you guys were talking about all the players incoming, some leaving, and you guys were looking at the Big South, what are the 2 big matchups you were looking forward to? Luke, we'll start with you.
For me, it's going to be Robert Morris versus Monmouth. Whether it's at Monmouth or at Joe Walden, it's going to be a premier game on this schedule, and it might be a game that determines who's going to be at the top of this Big South Conference when it's all said and done. This is a really good Monmouth team. You see it here, 11-3 last year, 6-0 conference record, and 35 points a game. They also forced 24 turnovers, John. 24 turnovers. That's more than a turnover a game for that Monmouth team, and we're beating teams by a differential of 20 points. But yeah, I go back to it. Lonnie Moore is going to be the biggest star for this Monmouth team. He's a tall, lanky wide receiver, 74 catches last year, over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. We talked about how depleted this secondary is going to be. A lot of freshmen have to step up and make plays. But Taven Harville, is going to be the big key factor if RMU can beat Monmouth.
And then what about you, Nate? What's your game to watch?
My big matchup is against Kennesaw State. This is going to be an extremely important matchup for the Colonials. I mean, last year, Kennesaw State plus 268 point differential. This team can score. And they did lose a couple starters, but they have won the Big South title in 2017 and 2018, so they are a very good team in this conference, and this matchup will be huge and potentially an upset for the Colonials if they can come out as the victors for this game.
All right, well, Nate, Luke, thank you for coming on. Now we're going to send it back over to Tyler Gallo.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for that riveting discussion. Now we're going to send it down to the Island Sports Center. We had a team go down and take a look at what goes into preparing the ice for game days. Take it to that.
There you go. For Robert Morris men's and women's hockey, the ice at the Clearview Arena is sacred. But before they step out for their home games, the Zamboni crew at the Island Sports Center is hard at work to get the ice ready for games to be played. The process begins with using the edger to cut around the perimeter of the ice, making sure that it's a nice flat sheet. And before the Zamboni does its job, it gets a brand new sharp blade before every ice cut. Then, 2 Zambonis are brought out to clean and wet the ice, so a fresh top layer is put on before each period of the games. After each cut, the snow is cleared off.
The RMU Athletics Department unveiled a refreshed brand identity to launch the Unite campaign. Quote, "We're excited to share this new brand platform and creative direction for RMU Athletics," said RMU Vice President and Director of Athletics, Chris King. "We will unite the department behind a strong culture and a clean and consistent brand internally to elevate the perception of RMU Athletics externally, both on campus and in the Pittsburgh area." Quote, "We recognize there is an abundance of notable and prominent collegiate and professional options for the sports fans in the Pittsburgh market, but RMU Athletics is uniquely positioned to differentiate our brand through premium accessibility," King said. In the spring of 2020, RMU Athletics partnered with Old Hat Creative to undergo a comprehensive brand study with the goal of developing a strategic direction for the athletic identity and brand. Quote, "Our role was to help establish a clear and unified brand message that would resonate with student athletes, the campus student body, and the community surrounding Moon Township," Old Hat COO Robert Smith said. For those in the community that are supporting RMU Athletics, they have a very positive outlook on the program and see momentum continuing to build, Old Hat CEO and founder Zach Logsdon said. Quote, "In order to unite campus and the community around RMU Athletics, we begin by establishing a clear and consistent vision of our brand internally," RMU Deputy Director of Athletics and Chief Marketing Officer Chelsea Blakely said. "Identifying that brand and developing a position strategy will help RMU Athletics communicate our value to the campus, community, and Pittsburgh region." Well, it's getting hot in here, and I don't know if you can feel it, but I can, because those are our hot takes coming up next on Colonial Sports Center.
Doesn't see race. Love is love.
What are you doing in there? What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza. Yes.
Make a plan today.
Welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. I'm here with Nick Hedrick and Luke Yost, and it's getting hot in here because we're ready for some hot takes. Luke, what do you got for us?
Listen, my hot take is a big one, but I think RMU football will have a chance to win this Big South Conference. I mean, Nick, you and I talked about it 2 weeks ago. I think I mentioned it every day in the newsroom, in the studio. Robert Morris football will fit into the top 3 of these 2 teams. Monmouth is good. Kennesaw State is good. But this Robert Morris football team might be better than both of them. This is a defense that is going to rally around these freshmen, going to rally around themselves.
Look at me and tell me you believe that.
I 100% believe that, Nick.
He did not break eye contact.
That
is 100% happening.
This
man would not be able to look me in the eye if he was lying, and he just did not break that. That was a deadlock. It's happening. It's happening.
And I bet when your hot take comes up, you can't do the same thing.
Oh.
So, yeah, Robert Morris football has a chance to win this. Doesn't have a chance. They're going to win this conference. They're going to be able to work the ball down the field. They have a good receiving core with Garrett Hauser, guy we mentioned earlier. We didn't take him as our focal point, but he's going to be good.
Well, my hot take is I think women's basketball is going to finish in the top 3 in the Horizon League this year because the way they played in the NEC, they just dominated the last couple of years. And we have some players that are going to step back up. Hanoka Ikamatsu is probably one of the best shooters from the outside. She might step up. And I just think this is going to be a good year altogether for women's basketball.
I'll buy that. It's not buy or sell. It might be, but I'm gonna say I believe in that one. They lost Ozzy Mamadou. They lost Dezebo. I think they're going to come back and be better perimeter shooting team than we ever expected, and they're going to make that prediction come true. I'm in a giving mood. I'm going to believe both of you.
The only thing that I have to say about that is this team, the only hurdle they have to overcome is this Youngstown State Penguins team. They've struggled against them the last 3 years, but if they can beat that team and they can get on that team in the second game, they have a chance to win this whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Does that make it my turn?
Yeah, it is.
Gentlemen, do you know what George Washington and I have in common?
Nothing.
We cannot tell a lie.
That's
AJ
Abraham
Brahma,
Lincoln.
averaging a double-double, rebounds and points. He scored double digits in 28 out of the team's last 29 games last year. Josh Williams is gone. Jalen Hawkins is gone. He's going to take over. He proved that he could be a star last year, and this year he's going to cement it. He's pouring concrete. He's going to cement it down. It's going to happen.
Was there any games last year that he had at least 10 rebounds?
Yes. He had 14, I think. He might have had 16. I can't remember who it was against, but I know for a fact he had more than 10 numerous times, and he is going to prove me right because I cannot tell a lie. And he has proven he can take the big role. He knows the pressure's on him. I saw that video of him the other day in the UPMC Event Center slamming balls down. It looked like me on my Nerf hoop, except a lot more athletic. But you know what? He's going to do it because he's AJ Brahma, and he can.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it happening, especially with them stepping up on this offense. So I will take that one, and I'll agree with it.
You better. You better. That means a lot to me.
Well, that's all we have for Hot Takes. It was a great segment. But, guys, or Jack, what do we have for on the table?
Well, collegiate sports may not be happening right now, Tyler, but it doesn't mean you can't stay hopeful for the near future to come, baby. That's right, sports are back. We have starting dates for men and women's basketball and football. We've got November 25th slotted as the NCAA comes back to collegiate basketball play. Very exciting for everyone involved. And Saturday, January 23rd, that is not this Saturday, I apologize, but we're going to be looking at Saturday, January 23rd for football to get going. And we have a lot of hopeful things to look for, folks. We know it's been a very bleak offseason. It's been a very bleak, what would have been the regular season. But we have this to look forward to. Stay home, stay grounded, stay cool, stay calm, collective, cool as a cucumber, as they say. But our time is out here, and we will hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next time on Colonial Sports Center.